Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bad Work Stories Made Good. My name is Karina Rubeck, and together with my co host, Emma Matthews, we'll be doing exactly that. In each episode, we're going to take a bad work story from our client work, the media, or even your own bad work story and get some good out of it. So, without further ado, let's dive in.
Hi, Karina.
Hi, Emma. How are you this week?
I'm really good, thank you. Although I've been interested by a new trend that I've seen out there called quiet quitting. Seems to be taking over the airwaves and the social media commentary. So, I thought we should have a chat about it. Are you intrigued?
I am intrigued. Quiet quitting. So tell us more.
Yeah. Well, actually, what is it? I mean, I thought, what does quiet quitting mean? Well, it actually means doing the barest minimum required to get your job done. So it's not going above and beyond, and it's actually called, acting your wage or inflation adjusted effort. So, or like the old school union would say, work to rule. So basically doing the bare minimum, the basics of your job description and nothing else. And sort of examples of it that I could find were things like turning your notifications off so that you're not kind of on all the time, not reviewing emails after hours, leaving the office or logging off, on the dot, like done, I'm done. And so it kind of sounds like, there's a lot going on right now. Obviously, there's a lot of change, but it sort of seems interesting that we've got to this point. What's really going on when we sort of hear about this as a trend? As the response to the overwhelm, and in fact, the speed and intensity that we had been working during the pandemic has really, exhausted a lot of people. Everyone's been affected for sure. The other underlying issue could be obviously feeling that contributions are not being recognised. So really, on the surface, it might seem like, basically we all need a break. The intensity's been a lot. And they also call it coasting, and rather than after the Great Resignation where people were really, jumping out of jobs, the pandemic, again, people felt, locked in, they felt they needed a new job and, the Great Resignation came about. But actually now people, jump jobs, didn't necessarily find it a good thing. And so they've now decided they'll stay put and just go on the quiet quit or the coasting. So bit of a reaction, I think, to the hustle culture. But but I'm thinking, what's the bad work story behind this?
So what's your first take on it?
Yeah, I think the reality is that when I think about, being in that state of just doing the barest minimum in a job, believe me, I've been there. I think we all have. We all have at some point. We're just like, actually, what's the point? What is the point, right? Not recognised. I'm not going to get any more. This, it's that feeling of disengagement, that feeling of like complete and utter. What's the point, really? I suppose it's so the bad work story for me is that when I'm in that state, I know my health and well-being suffers because basically I feel uninspired. I don't feel like there's any point. I feel no worth or meaning to actually I feel like a machine, to be honest, if I'm in that state. It's just like, tick the boxes, do the basics, get through the day. But actually, for me, I hate working like that. So that disengagement, that feeling of lack of connection, it's checking out. So I think that for me, the bad work story is the spiral that could happen, right? That disconnection. Yeah. What about for you?
Well, what comes up for me is the framing of it, right? So quiet quitting. So I get that perspective that you've shared, and I'm just wondering around the emotive nature of words being used like coasting, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the original Quiet Quitting was the original, kind of video that came out of TikTok was about doing a good job within the boundaries of your job description, right? So actually being productive, doing your thing, but actually calling it a day around kind of overextending or over efforting around what in the kind of engagement world we would say discretionary effort.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's been interesting around kind of a backlash that you can see online around employers going, well, if that was your frigging attitude, you wouldn't work for me, and if you want to get grow and be employed and be promoted, you got to do this.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting to look back to what you just, introduced earlier, which is the hustle culture.
Yeah.
And that's, I kind of, that wasn't kind of a descriptive that was around when you and I were both working in corporates and literally doing that, right? Hustling for, I kind of think the lens that I was doing it through was the good girl, get promoted, looking for opportunities, and kind of like, how corporate / capitalism has kind of fed off that discretionary piece. Yeah. And then the backlash is, and again, there's lots of this online too, around, well, actually, I'm not getting recognized.
Yeah.
I'm actually being taken for granted. The promotion's not coming, or the contribution, I think, as you said, is not being recognized.
Yeah.
And therefore my value, it's kind of like, well, I'm putting a whole pile of my energy, my heart and soul into something. And you know what? There's no return.
Yeah.
So that bounces concepts of purpose, of values alignment, of
exactly.
my alignment and coherence into what I'm about. And of course, that links back into the Great Resignation conversation, and this is a subset of that. Like if you don't freaking care about me and my growth, my path, and maybe, and I'm assuming here that I've tried to communicate that, because that's the other flip side, right? Is how have I taken responsibility for my needs? Yeah. Have I communicated these? Have I actually said, hey, I need to give you some feedback around how I'm, I've done this for a while, this is not working for me, or there's no recognition there. How do we create a win-win and focus on the purpose and the vision we're working to, what actually gets me out of bed?
Absolutely.
And,
I think the reality is that most organizations are going through so much change based on post-pandemic realities of what the world is, like now, that there is so much work to be done in terms of that, reviewing purpose in organizations, reviewing vision, and where are we going? And I think, quiet quitting could well be a symptom, again, of just that real disintegration of, maybe the way we've worked in the past and, what the purpose of an organization's here for. And, whether sort of senior management and boards are really saying, what we need to do post-pandemic is not get back on track, but actually reinvent, review everything and actually say, are we relevant? Are we relevant in this day and age for our market, for our customers, for our people? What is it we're really here to do? And while I don't like the word pivoting, it's like, there is a point at which taking a turn in a completely different direction or really recreating the organization. And I think that if the symptom could be that, looking at quiet quitting, if you're a leader in an organization and you're saying, God, they're all checking out, I haven't got an engaged team here any longer.
What do you do?
What are you going to do? Yeah,
exactly.
What would you do?
And, well, I think the other thing is to recognize some statistics, which I think something that was done by Gallup before the COVID was that 71% of millennials were disengaged.
Yeah.
that's a hell of a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're talking, you flip that and say, okay, well, let's, say only 30% of your workforce or your team is actually like and engaged is kind of like the discretionary effort, and you do it, that's a friggin' load of wastage and, like human waste in terms of potential and energy and ripple effect and all of that stuff. So back to your question is what the hell do we do with this?
Yeah.
So, and I think for any leaders listening, this is really scary, important stuff. It's like shit, like this is your freaking, I was about to say this is your freaking job. And it's like, becoming that team coach, but, the leadership piece around how are you bringing your team back? How are you facilitating these important conversations in a safe and trust environment where people can really speak what is going on for them, and with the potential, like quite quitting, coasting, I'm going to stay here, response, and with everything pointing to a recession, it's like, how do you actually, people aren't going to get up and leave. I mean, some people might, some people might go, what, great opportunity, I'm going to follow my passion, my purpose. But, if that's not options for people, how do you re-engage that energy and that commitment and purpose? And that requires some pretty full-on, honest, strong facilitation skills for team leaders, which are not always taught, as we know.
No, and also, from the personal perspective. So, right, totally about the team leaders and the leaders needing to step into this. But also, if it's you that's in this state of quiet quitting, then it's also a personal responsibility for you to take some action. I mean, we spend a lot of time in work. And do you want to spend most of your life eking it out just to put the pennies in the money box, really, or do you actually want to get some fulfillment? And so the personal responsibility is, I just don't love this job any longer. What do I need to do? Maybe there is, going to your manager and saying, look, I want to learn a new skill, I want to expand, or I want to, there's one part of my role I don't enjoy. Can it be shared? So actually getting involved in creating the work you want. And, that's when we are really taking action that, can make a change for us.
Totally. And as a leader, how seriously are you looking at this concept? Like if people are, and of course we know the other component of this is the work-life balance piece that's coming in.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, answer my emails after 5 o'clock, or, you can forget anything on the weekend. Well, again, coming back to purpose, I mean, that could be absolutely okay. That could actually be.
Sounds pretty healthy.
Like a very healthy, to use your word, pivot. God, I hate that too. Intervention. Oh my God, another word. Like something to iterate. Like, is this safe to try? But I think, from where we both come from is, it's putting everything on the table, feeling that you can put this on the table and say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. What's up? How do we move from here to where we need to be? And I suppose for some people, they'll say, well, I don't have the autonomy to do that. And that could be a luxury for some people. But then I think you've really got to say, well, back to your point, Em, like, is this consistent with my values? Is this how I want to spend my precious energy and, face my children when I come home from work every day and say, what was mummy or daddy doing, and answer them honestly and give them hope about the future,
Totally.
So it's a really, really interesting personal perspective. But again, leaders, good conversation, like C-suite, your leadership team meetings, how are you talking about this?
Yeah.
And I'm sure people have got pulse studies and, their HAVE studies and all of this, stuff going on. It's like, and, lots of corporates will have action plans in place, which is, kind of funny that this is still happening, right?
Absolutely.
You can hear me banging the table here. Because it's kind of like, this is not new.
No.
We just got, it's just been raised as a profile, and, it's been popularized, but this has been going on for a long time. So
exactly,
collectively, we've been pretty shit at handling this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good opportunity to
turn it good, turn it around.
Turn it good.
That's right. That is definitely a bad work story, and I think it can be made good. So I think we've given options and, personal responsibility for leaders and employees to basically get in there and work through what they want to do.
Wake up. My summary would be, this is an awakening process, right?
Yeah.
Post-pandemic, more awareness. You're waking up to what's really important to yourself, your values, which incorporates your family, how you want to live, how you want to work, what creates meaning for yourself, and then have the courage to go after it and co-create it with the people who can help you.
That's exactly right.
So it's an active piece that we got to do, people. So, yeah.
Sounds great.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you next time.
Absolutely. And signing off. Bye for now.
See you later. Thanks for listening to Bad Work Stories Made Good with Emma and Karina. We hope you enjoyed this episode and that the perspectives we have shared stimulate your thinking and are a catalyst for your own reflection and actions. If you have a bad work story you would like to share, get in touch at help@badworkstoriesmadegood.com. If you enjoyed, please leave a review on your favorite podcast provider. We appreciate it. Until next time, may all your bad work stories be made good. Bye for now.